For over 10,000 years, the Hadzabe tribe of Lake Yasi have lived as hunters and gatherers, a way of life unchanged since the time of our ancestors. And so, on one crisp, cool January morning, a group of my colleagues and I decided to venture out towards Lake Yasi and see what we could learn from this ancient tribe, the Hadzabe. As we drove towards the village, the sun was just rising. It was the crack of dawn, the orange rays of the sun shining against the lake. We almost drove by the actual village. It was so unassuming, just a small collection of grass huts. But we reached there, we got out of the vehicle, and there was a rustling in the bushes. Maybe it was just the breeze that was blowing. Maybe it was a mongoose. Perhaps it was a monitor lizard. Who knew? The Hadzabe were there, hard at work. They were stringing their bows. They were sharpening their arrows. And I thought to myself, what could this ancient tribe possibly teach us modern-day humans about leadership or anything else for that matter? It turns out quite a bit. But today is not about leadership theory or something out of a textbook. I want to invite you to join me as we travel into the Tanzanian hinterlands, as we go and spend some time on this hunt with the Hadzabe tribe and see 5 of the leadership lessons that I learned from them and took away. As we set out on our hunt that morning, what struck me in the outset was the intense focus that they had. It seemed like every sense of theirs was engaged in what they were about to do. Now, I was there with my colleagues. We were the distracted outsiders, distracted by our phone. The signal kept coming and going, distracted by my watch, distracted by the thought of my lunch, which I think I left in the vehicle. Maybe my sandwiches were going to turn soggy, perhaps. But it reminded me of something I heard from a monk when he said, "Where awareness goes, energy flows. Where awareness goes, energy flows." And in tourism, the industry which I'm from, distractions leads to lost trust, lost time, lost deliverables. Have you ever tried to talk to somebody when they're distracted? Perhaps somebody who is scrolling on their phone? Ever tried to have a conversation with them? How successful was that? Probably not very successful. Have you ever tried to teach somebody while they are distracted? Or while you yourself as a teacher are perhaps distracted? How successful have you found those? It's very difficult to learn anything when we're trying to multitask like that. But for the Hadzabe, their efficiency required full attention. And because their awareness was laser sharp, their energy went the same way, focused entirely on their hunt. Now, as we moved, we began walking first in a single file, and I noticed they began to split. Some went to the left, some went to the right, some went straight ahead, solo. They almost seemed to have a certain rhythm in how they moved. They split up, and then they regrouped again. They seemed to have a certain degree of autonomy, while at the same time having complete alignment in what they were doing. It reminded me of our own businesses or companies, the way we run them. We have different departments, sales, operations, finance, and yet they are all working to a common goal, the same way as the Hadzabe. We're all working towards this common goal, which was for them a successful hunt. For us, perhaps, the common goal in our businesses or anything else that we have a team for could be customer delight, could be sustainability, could be profitability, whatever it might be. Every team works towards that common goal, and that was exactly what I was observing unfolding in front of me. It was as if they allowed individuality. They allowed people to play to their strengths, and yet working towards that same goal. That was such a great lesson to observe in action, and something for us to also implement in our own leadership styles. The alignment was important, but what also came across was that there was no confusion in the minds of the Hadzabe when they were out on this hunt. It was like everybody knew exactly what they were supposed to do. They knew their role. There was complete clarity. There was no PowerPoint presentation before we went out. There was no micromanagement from somebody who was trying to yell, perhaps, instructions, asking. In business or in personal life. In business or in personal life. Have you ever looked at the task list? Or have you looked at the why? What is your leadership style? Do you try to micromanage that task list? Do you ask people, do you tell people how to do things? Or do you explain to them why they need to do things a certain way? Because you will find when teams understand what they're doing, when they understand the why, they will adapt intelligently without waiting for further instructions. There was clarity. But even that was not enough. Because once the hunt began, momentum was required. You see, us, me and my group, we were lagging behind. We were gasping for breath. I know I, for one, had my calf muscles burning. But the hunters, they never stopped. We went through thorn bushes. We went jumping over rocks. We were going through muddy riverbeds. But they were the leaders, and they kept the pace. They knew the pace that was required in order for the hunt to be successful. It wasn't about being unkind that they were not waiting for us. But the mission could not complete had they not kept the pace and the momentum. We all want to deliver high standards, but that means a certain degree of momentum and pace is required as leaders. Now, don't get me wrong. Empathy is key. Empathy is important, but it cannot be at the expense of completing the mission. Now, as we approached the end, the catch was modest. Usually, the Hadzabe are hoping to catch something large, antelope, baboon perhaps, but all we caught were a few birds. That's all we caught. Likely because they had us in tow. It was a modest catch, and so I was expecting disappointment. I was expecting the village to be disappointed that the catch came back so small. But on the contrary, what I found when we got to the village, they found time to laugh and to smile and to celebrate. It didn't matter that the catch was small. They were celebrating the small wins, not only the big wins. It was as if the recognition of what they had achieved was fueling their resilience, because they knew that in a few hours' time, they would have to go back out again into the field on their next hunt. And they had to be in full energy and full focus for that as well. Now, I'll be honest with you. I personally probably struggle the most with this leadership trait, celebrating small wins. Now, maybe it has something to do with the generational divide between myself and the new age Gen Zs coming into the workplace. But let's think about, what do we actually celebrate when we say we want to celebrate a small win? Are we celebrating our obligations, or are we celebrating the actual achievements? If you're submitting a task in the workplace, a proposal successfully, is that worth celebrating? Or is it simply getting to work on time? In a classroom or in a school setting, are you celebrating the successful completion of an assignment? Or are you simply celebrating turning up to class? There's obligations and responsibilities on one side, and then there's the actual results, which deserve to be celebrated on the other side. You see, the Hadzabe, they were not celebrating the person who was stringing their bow. They were not celebrating the person who was sharpening their arrow. They were celebrating the results of the hunt after they came back. They were celebrating what they came back with. They were celebrating the people who put food on the table for the village. But these results, the end result that we see at the end of the hunt, was only possible when these 5 leadership elements all came together at the same time. Focus, alignment, clarity, momentum, and celebration. These are not abstract ideas or abstract thoughts which we have just pulled out of a book. These are lived realities, lived leadership traits that are put into action every single day in the bush by the Hadzabe tribe, because their survival depends on it. And for me, what was the most fascinating was the similarity between bush leadership and boardroom leadership. Now, granted, we don't go out every morning to hunt for our next meal, but think of it from a leadership perspective. How do we ensure that we are focused during our day with all the distractions around us? And how do we ensure our teams are also focused? How do we ensure alignment in our teams, where we give the freedom of individuality, we allow people to play to their own strengths, while at the same time ensuring that everyone is working towards the same goal? Clarity. How do we ensure everybody is clear on the why, not just the how, not just how to do things, but why they need to do things a certain way? Momentum. Are we ensuring that as leaders we are holding the right pace, where it ensures the mission is completed and yet not being unempathetic and leaving people behind? And of course, celebration. Are we able to fuel resilience through recognition, through small celebrations for small wins? Leadership is more about trust than about titles. And these are the leadership traits that help build that trust between leaders and their teams. Everybody in this room, everybody is a leader in some shape or form. Some are obvious leaders: teachers, directors, managers, parents. And some leadership is less obvious to us, perhaps in a friend's circle, in the classroom, in an after-school activity, in a community center. It doesn't matter which type of leadership it is. Could even be as an older sibling. Everyone being a leader, I would leave you with one challenge. Just one challenge. Choose one of these Hadzabe leadership lessons and incorporate it into your life and into your leadership journey today. Because leadership is not about titles. It's about the choices we make and the actions we take every single day. Thank you.